Something's not right. Oh! Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's better. That's better. What up, random rockers? Today we're going to be doing a 3-in-1. Why am I decided that to do this one? Well, good news. It's not because of Limp Bizkit. Also good news. 3 albums. Although bad news in the sense that I missed one last week. Because for some reason I couldn't find it, and then I found out, well, somehow the band did not mark the EP as part of their discography, so I had to do a deeper dive in searching for it through YouTube. Apparently it showed up in their Spotify, though. That band and 2 other albums that came out this week. We'll start with the one I missed, and that album is... freaking Thank You Scientist, and their album Plague Accommodations. I'm guessing I didn't do too much research, but from what the title suggests, and it's 2021 at this point, and it was only an EP and not a full length at this point, given it's been 2 years since their last release. Longer in between the other records. I'm guessing it had to be an EP. And they felt they needed to do something at the time to keep us tastefully interested in the band. And honestly, I find the production on this record a slight improvement compared to Terraformer, actually. Or at least what I eventually noticed over time, to the point where I've learned and realized and understood why some people had felt that album was the weakest of them all. Plague Accommodations is, even despite being a 20-track EP, it's somehow, and despite its the title track, the titular final track, ending being a bit abrupt. I liked this thing. It's mostly, for those who don't know who Thank You Scientist is, they are a jazz fusion style progressive rock metal type act. That includes instruments that you expect out of jazz, or at least the instruments you would expect from a more jazz and metal act that does contain your guitars, your drums, your vocals, guitars, drums. Granted, the beginning track that starts this off is a bit of an instrumental thing, similar to like how they did with their last album, with the track Giggle Button. Yes, they have a sense of humor. I mean, that track in and of itself should speak for itself in terms of its name. Creature Comfort was great. Soul Diver is pretty good too, but and I like Plague Accommodation. I think Creature Comfort probably being one of the stronger tracks, but I do think Plague Accommodations does well enough up until its ending. I liked all 4 of these tracks. There's not much to say other than it's another Thank You Scientist release. If you expect of that style, that is more in that, or at least in their more modern alternative-based sense of progressive rock, with tinges of metal, with some tinges of the more traditional sense of progressive metal, or at least the more Tool, Porcupine Tree kind of stuff, specifically in terms of progressive, in terms of where they would fit in with progressive metal, as opposed to more extreme, or Dream Theater for that matter, though, or maybe Steve Vai, if he counts as progressive rock or metal, I guess. But I liked this album. Very, very much so. Yeah, and I'd still recommend it. And yeah, I don't know if I would go as far as to say masterclass now this time around. Though, funny how Thank You Scientist released something literally within the same time frame as having heard the new Moron Police. And those were like my top 2 of 2019. Figure that. Both EPs, apparently, though one did something completely different. I wasn't expecting Thank You Scientist to go too far out of their wheelhouse, but I was fine with that. What ain't broke don't need to be fixed. Just make sure you produce and mix your album well enough or something. And this EP is an exception of that. Yeah, it rocks. He rocks at the very least, and that's all they had to do, man. That's all they needed to do for me. And now on to the albums that actually came out this week as opposed to the last week that I missed, starting with Sion, self-titled. This is a project that I didn't know I had to anticipate since my time at the Trivium, at the specific concert that I seen at Pops, which was the one Jared was on with Trivium, Avatar, and the band I missed, which was Howard's group. Unfortunately, because my ticket was held hostage, my free ticket, so I had to wait for them in order to get in, obviously. And that was Howard Jones' Light the Torch, which had an album this year, and I missed it. I wasn't sure if I should give it a shot. I don't know if I still should. I'm sure Howard will probably tell me to do so. I would not blame him, because he wants this. That one's mostly making money. I don't know if this one will. I hope it does, because from what I've been hearing, Jared's very happy with the fact it's been doing super well. I'm up, and it is showing up at least number 3 on most charts and stuff, and I'm actually seeing it in my feeds, which was better than what I talked about with how that happened with the last with that EP, in terms of getting a hold of it at least, streaming wise. But yeah, Sion, this album specifically, is the brainchild of between Jared Dines and Howard Jones, most famously known for Killswitch Engage, and in Jared Dines' case, most famously known for having been a big YouTube guitarist. And most of you who know about this have probably been signed up more likely to his channel, and also hence why I have the hat the way I have it, because that's how Jared would want it. I'm a diner. A little bit. Unless he thinks dinosaur or whatever, which he's not that. I don't know. But anyways, I've been anticipating when a full-length or EP or whatever was going to come out since The Blade came out earlier this year, which is the first track you did hear out of from this project. Drown, which wound up being the last single that came out recently. It was fine. And More Than Just Myself was fine as well. Weirdly, besides The Blade, which is the strongest of the singles, I'll be honest with you, and it was a great choice to open this album with. Those songs were fine, and then The Worst Way happened, and I was a little honest to God worried that this album wouldn't really go anywhere. Weirdly enough, it took and then by the time Buried Alive and Wide Awake happened, hooks and everything were starting to come around, and I think by this, if not by the point of Skyfall, I think is when we started to get back some lead work again, and Jared finally does. And that's the one, but there is a crutch about this in terms of the way it's mixed, which I didn't notice until I used my one of my Bluetooth speakers that is more mono than anything. So when it's in mono, you start to notice some shit when it comes to mixing. Apparently, if the dude from Spectre Sound Studio or whatever other place doesn't already tell you that. So, and the things that were the most forward, obviously, in the mix were the clear strengths of both Jared and them. And for the most part, that essentially was Howard Jones' fucking vocals, which are fucking fire, still to this day, somehow. I don't know how he's been in Light the Torch, or what his old band used to be called. The Devil You Know, apparently, was that project's name before its name change, which I guess they went a more positive route about it, I guess. Well, though I am glad he's worked things out with Killswitch. Now all we need is for him to work something out to the point of being a part of the band again, in terms of at least studio efforts, at least. Like, work something out to where you can come back together and we get the Killswitch album we've been dreaming of ever since you worked things out again. Because, and it's nice to see you want to fill in for Jesse too. I mean, no matter who you sings with them, we win. Killswitch Engage fans win. Or at least the ones that have been around for so long and have been waiting, they get more payoff as opposed to me that has been kind of here nor there. But I respect the hell out of Killswitch since their inception and since their heyday. Even if I hadn't fully gotten into them proper in terms of full-length albums. So I understand if most of you want to take what I have to say about the Sion record as a grain of salt. It's more that I'm coming at this more as a Jared Dines fan than I would say a Killswitch fan. And luckily this isn't mixed as bad as that cover, cover that he tried, which shouldn't have been bad, but somehow it was. And I don't know what, or at least through the same speaker I was using, which was also mono, which goes to show clearly he wasn't using mono. I don't know with that thing. Luckily, this isn't the case. It's more something else is weird with the mix to where those are forward and some of the drums kind of come out a little bit. And there are moments where the bass does pop out, and the moment it does is actually one of the stronger moments of this on this freaking album, dude. Which are more in tracks like which Skyfall was great. I know it's not a cover of Adele. Though it would be interesting to see how they would have done a cover of the Adele song. I'll be honest with you. Be some fun. I don't know if I would say it'd be funny. If it was, it'd be ironically. Oh, that's interesting, and I'd be smiling for different reasons than ironic. Haha, funny. But yeah, Endless War was great. Constant Reminder is definitely one of the highlights. Great Deceiver was pretty good as well, but Dying of the Light. I wish this track ended the album. I understood they didn't want to end it on such a creepy note or something, and they wanted to try to end it on a more positive sounding kind of note, or at least something more mellowish through Inside the Hollow, which is the most mellow track on the album. A weird way to go out, especially, but I think because of the way they were consistently trying to throw out bangers anyway. It's understandable why they chose to do that, and plus they needed something. Honestly, I'm surprised this ain't a freaking single, if I'm being honest with you. But I wish they would have, just because they did that, and it was one of the best freaking breakdowns, too, on that damn thing. And I think lyrically it's one of the better ones, too. Something to Live For is definitely really good, and some of these songs lyrically do feel more close. Most songs are done by Jared, written by Jared, but some songs do seem to actually like Something to Live For or A Constant Reminder. Are the ones that for the most part feel more closer to Howard's style of writing, at least within Killswitch, that I can think of, or at least what I've gathered from the recent Killswitch album, Atonement, but that he was involved on for at least that one song, which I wish they'd do most of the rest of the record like that, honestly. Or at least have two songs with him and Jesse collabing, and the rest be some songs Howard, some songs Jesse. That'd be great. I don't know if that'll ever happen. I'm wondering if Howard really wants to do it, but it's some stupid political label bullcrap or something. I'm sure. But anyways, Jared, you guys, I think for a debut from independently made, technically, given the circumstances, I'm glad he's getting some success out of this project. And I hope it does bear some good fruit and they make an even better album off of this. I would compare what's happening in this case, minus the independent backing label thing, and actual big, compared. The difference with with the artist's situation in terms of debuts I'm comparing them to is because the other artist had some bigger backing to him. But both efforts, as opposed to Jared and Howard having this independent situation, and I would somehow weirdly, though I'm not too sure, my opinions might change on this part, because I kind of like this other artist I'm referring to's album better, and that's Wolfgang Van Halen. I'm not saying sonically they're the same. No. I'm saying in terms of how they, how these albums that these artists put out. I think that there was a little more hype going in for Sion, I think, than I would say Wolfgang. Wolfgang did, but the way it was coming about, I've heard some people wasn't going to wind up going in liking it anyway, and I've heard some people say they liked it better than expected. I liked it. I mean, I didn't have any expectations with that one. This one I kind of did. So, and I think for the most part it met those expectations. I don't know if I would say and then some, at least with one track and then some, but I wouldn't say the whole album. Pretty much meat and potatoes, but it's good meat and potatoes. About as good as what I had at the Friendsgiving I had last night. Holy fuck, that was some good stuffing that was put in that turkey, and that was a juicy turkey. So juicy that even the dark meat was. That's, which given I've been talking about Dying of the Light, that's even more ironic. But anyways, That's what I think of this. That's what I think of the Sion record. And you know what? Like that album, I'm giving it a thumbs up. But I'm almost tempted to consider the horns, man. Which, of course, for Jared, if you're watching and heard it, that is some high praise. I don't think a lot of other people are going to say this. I've heard from a little bit on Mellow Meltdown who hasn't done anything, but from what it sounded like, he didn't care for it. Don't know if he'll do a review to talk about it or if he just doesn't care enough to want to do anything about it. I don't know. But me, I like this. I'm probably going to at least put in honorable mentions. I don't know if it'll make the year-end list, but we'll see. I've yet to deep dive in that way with the year-end list stuff, because I still got after this and then this week's albums, there's nothing else that interests me after this week, so I may just start doing a catch-up thing and then then work on my year-end list. So, but before we get to that, we have one more album that came out this week, and that album is from a band I never thought I'd ever get a chance to get into, or at least to deep dive into their discography. And that band is Cynic, Ascension Codes. Yeah, to Howard and them, yeah, it was gonna be hard to beat this album for this week, but it was still very solid and very enjoyable. I almost want to say I enjoyed both equally, but I'm gonna start off right off the bat. I don't know if this is gonna make album of the year list. It could make honorable mentions without a doubt. But I wound up hearing other albums I'm going to say I liked the Dude album better. That being said, this album is from a band, Cynic, the true, straight up in terms of its foundation, by two people that apparently helped make the Death album Human, which I had no idea until looking into this and hearing about it through reviews on this album, where unfortunately it seems this is a post-COVID release album that unfortunately led to the deaths of two members of the band, some of which had already left, one of which had already left around the last album. They did Kindly Bent the Knee, I think, is what that album was called. And this band's most notorious album being Focus. And I understand how this literally is the pinnacle of most progressive death metal. Hell, I can even see how some of this record influenced possibly Mudvayne. Even to the weird, though, I honestly wouldn't be somehow also surprised if somehow Mudvayne and Chad Gray slightly influenced the way the cleans were going to turn out on that last album. The difference being that at least the guy from Cynic is knows how to sound like a better singer and less nasally. But I'd give Mudvayne a slight compliment in the sense that I've compared you to one of the great progressive death metal bands that might as well have influenced some of your sound as well, up to a point, and some of your ideas, musically, I guess, for at least those early albums. But anyways, we're not really trying to talk about Mudvayne, we're trying to talk about Cynic. And yeah, I understand why Focus is the album that it is, dude. I don't know if I like the remastering more or not, versions or not, because I kind of like the rawer form of what is the original, up to a point. I don't know. I've still got to figure that out yet, but this album had those issues, and to the point where no one was thinking this album was going to happen. And once I found out this happened, I was actually kind of excited because I've heard a lot about talk up from mostly Boehner TV about Focus. About their album Focus, and I've been wanting to listen to them for a while and wanted to deep dive into that record and then check their other albums they've had, which Trace and Ear isn't bad. And I mostly checked the remixed version that apparently Nolly was involved on. which I guess that album probably needed it because I could tell there was a loudness war issue in its original mix. So thank God I did. And then that EP isn't bad either. Weirdly, I didn't wind up liking the Kindly Bent the Knee or something. I think that's the name of the album. I probably got it wrong. Let me double check, please. Hold on. I feel I need to double check and see if I got the album name right. Yeah, Kindly Bent to Free Us. I messed up a little bit. I was right with the Kindly Bent. Not bent the knee, it's bent to free us. So my bad, guys. My bad. Also, the humanoid track ain't bad either. That was a good tease. But yeah. I genuinely like a lot of this album. What this album is, I do feel like I like it better than their last record. And sonically, it seems they leave off from last record, but they bring back elements of focus. It seems, if it had a little bit more of that certain something in terms of production that many bands that have essentially had in 2021. In fact, this band, it's in and of itself, even off of their debut, have two songs that literally may as well have been that were the inspiration behind the band's progressive bands like that of Veil of Maya and Textures. Still disappointed that I didn't get to hear the other half of that Textures concept thing before they broke up, but neither here nor there about that. Yeah. Nasty. Sorry about that. Ugh. But anyways. The only thing not nasty is this album. It's very beautiful. And you could feel the pain frontman has about this band. And this could potentially, honestly, wind up being the last Cynic album. And if it's not, it's probably, and I feel it's probably for the best that it is. Because if it's not, and they wind up pulling an Architect situation, because a lot of this album mostly has a bunch of segues. Some of them work, or at least they come across better to me than what I think a lot of people will say about the last Tool album. So, take that for what it's worth. Overall, it doesn't take away the fact that this album is truly great. I just wished, and for whatever album they could have left us off, if this is the last album they got, they ended on quite a note. Quite a powerful note. And what a loving tribute, I believe, that is to the fallen band members through Ascension Codes. Which is, I think, part of the reason why they seem to try to leave off, but why I think the frontman tried to leave off from that and bring back their roots and focus as their way of paying into the music, as sort of a way of paying tribute to the fallen members and the foundation of the band, by going to the foundation of the band and focus ideas, blending it in a more modern way with leaving off from their last record, showing them still kind of showing the band still having evolved in some sense, without completely falling behind, even though you would think they kind of would be, given how prog's been lately, especially with some of the bands that come out this year, especially given fucking Colors 2 came out, and the recent Dune album somehow better than this, but I'm considering maybe at least putting it on the lower end of it, if not honorable mentions, because either way, you know what? Which we'll be talking about. Yeah, I've heard the Dune album. I'll be talking about that. You'll know where I feel about that one. But yeah, this album rocks, and with the potential for masterclass. And yes, a lot of people are saying about Aurora, they're not wrong. That one does hit pretty good, and it's definitely one of the better, catchier tracks for sure on this thing. The Winged Ones isn't bad here. Elements, and it was I believe it was Elements and Their Inhabitants, I think is what was my first taste. If it wasn't Architects of Consciousness. I didn't like that, whatever track it was, I didn't like it as first until I heard it in the context of the album, which is where it really shines better. Diamond Like Body's definitely a great penultimate track, and they try to end with whatever segue they did the best they could. I believe that Aurora, Architects of Consciousness, Sixth Dimensional Archetype, and oh, well, actually, it was Mythical Serpents. But anyways, I really did like this record. I don't know if I would... Hell, I don't know if... Maybe it is better than the Error album. I don't know. But yeah, this is really good, and it's worth... If this album is your first taste of the band, good for you. Even though I could sort of weirdly want to recommend their previous album as a good stepping stone, at least. Because it's way cleaner and stuff, and it still has some metal moments, sonically at least, and whatnot, even though I still would rather recommend, at least on the lesser end, and then after that I would rather you get into Focus, then maybe get into this album, and then Trace in Air maybe, or something like that, because as far as I'm concerned, Cynic is actually a really good, interesting band, and no matter what you pick from them since Focus, you'll get something out of it. I'm sure you'll find some enjoyment in some sense. So yeah, Cynics went out with an album that's also proves why they do that. Yeah, it's Horns Up, Masterclass certification of some sort. So it's probably gonna make my on your list. So, and loving you did a good tribute for your friends, man, and even I had some emotional moments. Not, like, maybe almost man-teary, maybe, which is why I may not put it up super high compared to some other ones. But, yeah, it's great. The hype is real on this thing for the most part. I wouldn't say it's, like, I mean, or at least it lives up to a certain level of it. Maybe not to the extent that I would say of Colors 2 or another album that I had already mentioned that I probably shouldn't have, and because now I spoiled that review, kind of, sort of, when I do my catch-up for that. So anyways, what did you guys think of the album so far? All three of these albums that I had mentioned? What did you think of these guys? Leave a comment below. Let me know. If you like this review, rock the like button with thrust and if you must. Link in the descriptions. I think Ben still has his Patreon thing up or something, Ben Bateman. Check that thing out. For those of you mostly that know about him through Schmodown and Action Industries or Action Army and then Action Guys and Action Movie and the older days of Action Movie Anatomy up to a point, if not the Schmodown, you know. Then, yeah, that's what that donation thing is about, with him dealing with his back surgery again and, you know, making up for tour stuff because he hasn't been doing a whole lot of that since he basically put a lot of effort into this music thing, and his whole back situation changed a lot. But yeah, and then of course link it to my Facebook page, like and follow me there as well. And then this is Rocky Movies with Tyler. I'm Tyler, and as always, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. Also, hit that subscribe button. Click the notification bells. Keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. Keep it real, keep it rocking. And I will see you in the next video. Take care, y'all.